Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners and welcome all of you here. We have a big crowd tonight. I think we have some special things going on tonight. So I'm happy to see that and happy to have everyone here. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Zaire Vincent from Wendell Elementary School. Where are you, Zaire? You come right up here. Zaire is very responsible in everything that he does. He has self-discipline and demonstrates great perseverance. He works incredibly hard to master challenging skills. He is an amazing speller, excels in math, and is an avid reader. He's a joy to teach and brings valuable insights and positivity to the classroom and helping others grow. Zaire's a fifth grader at Wendell Elementary School. We're so very proud of you. All those are such nice things that your teacher said about you. You're going to do great things, aren't you? All right, let's all stand up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Our invocation tonight from the Wendell Christian Church, we're going to hear from Lisa Morris. Good evening. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Good evening. I'm pitch hitting for somebody else.
It's okay. We appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
Well, I'm certainly happy to share this word. May we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, as we come to you tonight, we first of all want to thank you for the blessing that is Wendell. It's such a joy to know that there's still a small town with high hopes where we can simply enjoy each other, enjoy the beauty of nature, and enjoy the people we meet every day. We pray that you continue to bless this town, that it thrives and grows. And Lord, help us to glorify you in all that we do. And may the words spoken here tonight come from the hearts and the minds and the souls of those present. And may it once again glorify you. Help us to take the path that you would have us take. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to request the board to remove one item. I'd like to request the board remove item 6C from the agenda.
Do we need that in the form of a motion, or can we just?
Madam Mayor, I'd move that we adopt that and adopt the agenda as amended.
All right, so we have a motion to adopt the agenda with, including the removal of item 6C. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we'll move into our public comment period tonight. The public may participate in public comment by signing up for public comment the night of the meeting by the door or submitting written statements via email to the town clerk by the Friday prior to the board meeting before 5 p.m., the Friday prior to the Monday meeting. And that will be read into the record, and on both occasions you have 3 minutes to speak, in person or read into the record. We have 5 people signed up tonight, but if you are here for our public hearing, which I think a lot of you may be here for the public hearing, you may want to hold off and make your comment during the public hearing, because that's what that is about. So I'm going to call your names, and you can just let me know if you want to wait or not. The first is Andrew Layton. Wait, okay. Larry Layton, wait. Kate Benson, wait. Robert Dale, and Bradley Barham. Wait, all right. And there's no one else signed up tonight for that. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll move into our recognitions, reports, and presentations. Item 4A is the recognition of Wendell Elementary School teacher, Miss Jasmine Smith. If you can come up to the podium. Ms. Smith is an outstanding PE teacher. This was sent to me by her principal. Since joining the Wendell family this year, she has made great improvements in our PE department. We truly appreciate the way she has organized the gym and her lessons to teach students fundamental things. She excels at fostering teamwork and sportsmanship, which has a positive impact on her students. We are grateful to have her on staff as a coworker. So those are mighty nice things. Welcome to Wendell. We're happy to have you at Wendell Elementary School. And we wanted to just have you here tonight to recognize you and thank you for all you do for our kids in Wendell. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, item 4B is the 2024 Tar Heel League 8U Baseball All-Star State Championship presentation. We're going to hear from Tim Kay.
There she is.
I know, isn't that great?
Yes. Madam Mayor, members of the board, thank you guys for having us this evening. Super excited to be here, really pumped up, celebrating these guys and their accomplishments. Job well done, can't say it enough about them. We haven't had a state championship since 2016 for baseball. It's amazing to say we had an incredible run up until then, but if you look back 8 years, that's pretty impressive. I'm going to throw a couple of numbers and a couple of stats out there with you before we recognize these young fellas. We won the SJBA, went 4-0 in that, beating GBI. We won the district tournament in Wendell with the 7 and 8 boys on July 8th through the 13th. We went 5-0 in that, again, beating GBI. We won the state tournament in Hickory, North Carolina, July 25th through the 28th. We defeated Wilkes County 7-2. Again, going 5-0 in that tournament as well for a total record, guys, total record, unblemished, 14-0. It's pretty impressive, pretty impressive. The championship gives us in Wendell a grand total of 5, 7, and 8 state championships. So this was our 5th, and again, the first since 2016. I want to tell you how we got there. To me, it's basically 3 things. Number 1, players and their talent. These guys learn, they worked hard, they're at practice every day, they're working and toning and doing and things that I know I couldn't do when I was 7 and 8 year old, and they were doing it. Give you an example, we were down by 2 runs. They had the bases loaded with 1 out, and you got Jacob Mooney, who was sitting there, grabs a ball, makes a double play, gets us out of the inning. We come in and score multiple runs, take the lead, and never look back. I mean, this is happening. Gavin Morgan, a ball's hit to the outfield. There's a sure base hit. You think ball in the outfield, sure base hit. Not with Gavin out there and his strong arm. Throws the guy out at first base or second base, and just takes the air out of another team when you see somebody doing that. It's really awesome. Braxton Mills is here tonight. That dude hit 2 home runs in the championship game. I mean, you can't say enough about all the talent. Everybody did something. Reese Flood seemed like he never got out when he went to Hickory, North Carolina in that state championship. You've got Jack Moore making diving plays at second base. Porter Vallis got a game-winning hit in one of those games to keep us in the winning bracket. All of them, Josiah Haddock, Warren Weaver, Owen McCarthy, Cooper Cummings, all had defensive or offensive plays that made a huge impact on our team and allowed us to win that state championship. And again, the work that they put into practice, the constant work that they had to do to get that accomplishment is really what made it happen. But they couldn't do it by themselves. They had to have some help, and our help is in the form of the coaches. Guys, we can't say enough about our coaching staff. Wendell was very blessed to have some of the best volunteer coaches around. Blake Murray, Brian Mills, Jonathan Moore, and Chase Flood, they're all instrumental in preparing these boys to win. Every practice was intentional and gave these boys the knowledge to succeed. They were out there accomplishing things and showing the love to these kids. When their head dropped, they didn't get upset with them. They didn't berate them. They didn't yell at them. They coddled them. They told them how to get better. The kids loved them for it, and they loved the kids for it. And when you ask these guys, why do you do it? Why do you do it? There's no compensation. You're not getting anything out of it. And they said, I love it. It's for the kids, and we want to bring Wendell a championship. That's what they said. And it just touched your heart when you hear stuff like that. These guys are so good at what they do and so good at building our kids for the future, not just for baseball. But again, they couldn't do this without help. The final piece of the puzzle, the piece that means the most, are the families of Wendell and the families in our program. It's the real X factor. Every game is filled with parents, grandparents, friends of the team, and it's not cheap to win a state championship. You're talking about gate fees, uniform fees, hotel rooms, meals, just to name a few, and they did it all for these kids. They showed up, showed out, supporting them everywhere they went. But it didn't stop there. I mean, you've got parents that have 3 kids and 3 different age groups, and they're going from one field to the next, but they're there for them. They're there at every practice. They're there at every game, and they're really supporting what they have. I'll give you a couple of examples, and then we'll move to the celebrating of the kids. We've got them here. You've got Donnie Haddock, who's one of the fathers. He was keeping Warren Weaver with him and his kids. He told me this story while we were down in Hickory, and he says, Warren was a little nervous before the championship game. He was staying with them, with Josiah and himself, and Donnie just tells him, he says, Warren, it's okay. He says, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to be nervous. He says, you know what we need to do? We need to pray about it. And they did. They did together. They just opened his heart and opened his mind. They prayed about it, and the rest is history. Then I got a personal experience with the families. After we won the districts, so we're moving on to Hickory, I had one of the grandparents come up to me, and they said, Mr. Tim, are you going to Hickory? And I said, well, I think I'm going to go, and I'm going to watch a few games. And the first thing that they said was, if you need a place to stay, you can stay with us. Now that's community. That's coming together. The sense of inclusion, the sense of being together, the sense of being there for one to make it a whole is really, really a good feeling, and that's what we have here in Wendell. You have travel ball, you have all kinds of activities, you got kids being pulled in different direction, and the reason they play and the reason they win in Wendell is strictly for the community, for the name on the chest, the W on the hat, and it really makes you feel good to see what they have. And I can't say enough, a special thanks to all of our coaches, to all of our kids, and to all the families of Wendell who participate in Parks and Recreation. Don't get an opportunity to do that enough. I just want to say thank you for being part of our community and providing such a positive influence to our kids. And with your work together, we were able to celebrate a state championship. And now, if you don't mind, what I'd like to do is call up all of these players and kind of introduce you to each one of them. Guys, when I call up your name, we got a little special something for you. Mr. Jack Moore, if you'll just come and line up right here. Reese Flood. Jacob Mooney. Owen McCarthy.
Gosh, is that a Super Bowl ring?
That's pretty much the Super Bowl ring, yes.
Awesome.
Nathaniel Jones. Warren Weaver. Porter Vallis. Josiah Haddock. Cooper Cummings. Gavin Morgan, Braxton Mills, and Carson Murray. And to the coaches, once again, if you guys would also like to come up here, we have head coach, Mr. Blake Murray. Assistant coaches were Brian Mills, Jonathan Moore, and Chase Flood. Final thing is, we've got a presentation. We've got a big sign that we're gonna put up at one of the sign guys. It's got your name on it. We're gonna post it on that field, and you guys will be remembered for this year's accomplishment. Let's give a big round of applause for our players and coaches. You guys can see it first, kind of get an idea.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Y'all squeeze in and take some pictures if you'd like. It's fine. Take some pictures. I want to see the ring.
When it was sliding down the table.
Hey, can I see your ring? I promise I'll give it back.
She's a very trustworthy mayor, don't worry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's like Super
That's
Bowl
nice.
time, yeah.
Look at that.
That's very cool. Congratulations.
Man. Okay, don't lose it.
I mean, do they need assistant coaches next year?
Always need coaches. Yeah, put the ring on and hold your hand out. There you go.
Darkest night.
Good job, guys.
Go Wendell.
Come here. Thank y'all for being here. Hey, I want to see that trophy, man. That's like the sweetest key trophy I've ever seen.
Brian. Good job. Brian, your son is Braxton? Okay, not many Braxtons around, so 2 homers, yes, sir.
Good job.
Good work, brother.
Good job. Are you the 2 home run guy?
Congratulations, boys. We're very proud of you, each of you. Thank y'all for being such good ambassadors for Wendell. All right, item 4C is the December 2024 snapshot update. Mr. Collins.
The financial and operational performance measures were provided in your packet. If you have any questions, I'm glad to take them now or at any time at your leisure.
Okay, any questions for the manager? All right, we'll move on. Item 4D is the Wendell Police Department body-worn camera program. We're going to hear from the Chief John Slaughter.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Board of Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to come up here and speak about the body-worn program that we're going through right now. Just as you may recall, in the fiscal year 25 budget, we allotted funding for the body camera program to purchase the body cameras. Since that time, we have explored different options. We've tested different body cameras out, and we were able to identify the body camera that would work best for us and our officers in the community. In addition, during that time period, we also found funding as well to help fund with the program through a grant that we have been awarded. And going through this, we're going to cover the purpose of the body-worn cameras, some policy highlights, the benefits of the body cameras, and then the next steps of the program itself. If you see here on the right, that is a picture of the body camera. It is going to be the Axon camera. They also were formerly known as Taser, and they also provide the tasers that we have as well. Again, we did a lot of vetting and testing to get to this point with them. Just some highlights of the purpose of it. Obviously, it's become the new normal in policing now. Back when I got into law enforcement, I guess it's been about 24 years ago, I remember we had the in-car cameras and you had the VHS tapes that you had to switch out every day. Now we have evolved beyond that with the body cameras, and just in the process now, even of the DA's office, anytime we have a case that goes before trial, they're actually requesting, hey, do you have in-car footage and do you have body camera footage? So that's how normal has gotten. It can be used as an educational investigative tool. For years, officers, took the stand to testify to what they saw. Body camera strengthens that now, because now somebody can sit there and watch it. They can see what the officer experienced, things that were said, and how they develop a probable cause in a case. And also, they're beneficial for departmental training. You'll see as we go through this, we have some things in place where we can review the body camera and see if there's any corrections we need to make to policy, or if there's things we need to look at as far as our training that we do every year. Just some highlights. The overall policy really explains to staff, the officers, the supervisors, what their role is with these body cameras, when to operate them, what to do with the footage once it's downloaded, how do we use it if we're dealing with citizen complaints. So that's the overall use of this. And you'll see in the policy, you'll see the word MAV. That is the in-car camera. And then, of course, BWC is the body camera. So right now, every patrol car has an in-car camera. It's had that for years and years. So again, the next step is to go beyond that with the body camera. The downside to the in-car camera, obviously, is really only good when it comes to traffic stops. Once you get beyond a patrol car, whether it's a domestic or dealing with a break-in at a residence, the car will not capture that. The body camera will help us out with that. So. Specifically with the policy, it covers when we can use the camera. The good thing is pretty much any time we're involved in a situation, we're called to somebody's house or business or doing a traffic stop, there is not an expectation of privacy at that point, so we are able to record during that incident. You will have some situations, say an officer's at the hospital with someone who's been involved in a traffic accident, maybe they're interviewing about the accident. The doctor comes in and wants to discuss the prognosis and treatment. That's when the officer would then need to step out or cut their camera off, because then you're getting into HIPAA situations of that. We're always going to make sure that we're following legal standards. A lot of things that we do, you all are aware, constitutional law, state law, federal law really dictates a lot of things that we do, especially with different pieces of equipment. Setting the guidelines for officer responsibility is very important to know what they need to be able to do with these cameras. Number one is going to be care and maintenance. So right now with the in-car cameras, when an officer checks on duty, they actually have to test out their in-car camera. They do a quick little test run, make sure it's recording and working. They're going to do the same thing with the body camera, and they'll do that, and they document it within one of their calls to service reports to show that they did it. It tells them also the use of the body camera, when they can use it, and again, pretty much 99% of the time they're going to be using it. So if they get a call of any type dealing with a citizen, during a traffic stop or something, then they will need to use that camera. And when can the camera be ended? And so we looked at that, what is the best practice for that? And what we determined is the officer will leave their camera running until they have completely finished the situation dealt with and have left the scene. So if they're at a home, at a domestic violence, after they've dealt with that call, they've gotten their car, they've driven off, they will then cut their camera off. If it's a traffic stop, when the driver's either left the scene or the officer's left the scene, then they'll cut their camera off. Anytime the officer cuts their camera off prematurely or doesn't cut it on, we have checks and balances in there for that. And then also setting standards for downloading recordings. The great thing about this body camera is it connects to the MiFi system that we have in the patrol car, which means it will wirelessly download throughout the shift. So as soon as they get back in their car, it's going to start the download process. If it's a extended event, something that could be over like an hour long, then they have a docking station at the police department where they can then dock the body camera and it can download a little bit faster. Supervisor responsibilities, currently we do quarterly reviews with the in-car cameras. The same thing will happen with the body cameras. So every quarter, they'll review 3 in-car camera and 3 body camera footage. And it's got to be something of substance. It's got to be something like a traffic stop or calls for service. It can't just be the officer recording driving around, so it has to have some substance to it. The purpose behind that is it allows supervisors to see how their officers are handling calls and traffic stops and situations outside of their view when they're not around. And it helps us, hey, do we need to find some type of additional training if we see a weakness in an officer? Or if we see an officer doing something positive, we can recognize that as well. They're also responsible for equipment inspections. So yes, you have the officer that is also testing their body camera. The supervisor will do the same thing. We'll do quarterly inspections. They'll actually physically go to the body camera, check it out. And also, if the camera is not working, then they'll make sure it goes to the service sergeant for repair. We do have body cameras, spare ones, in case an officer's camera is not working. Then what they simply do is check out a new one and the other one goes. So, you also have repair orders. Like I said, they'll get sent in a timely manner. Good thing about Axon, they have a quick turnaround time period on body cameras. Access to footage, officers can review their footage, but they will not be able to use other or look at other officers' footage. It'll just be theirs specifically. Supervisors, they'll have access to any of their officers' footage, and they have that so they can do the quarterly reviews. If they just feel like they need to check something out that an officer went to, or maybe we received a citizen complaint and they're doing an investigation on that. The records and evidence manager, they are responsible for submitting any video footage for evidence to the court system. Another plus with having the Axon body camera is that the Wake County DA's office uses Axon's, it's called evidence.com software. And so instead of having to burn DVDs and drive it to the courthouse like we used to, now the evidence manager can simply choose the video and sends it right away. So streamlines things, makes it a little bit easier also. As far as our program evaluation, annually, and us being CALEA accredited, we have to review all of our policies every year anyway. But we also want to pay attention, has there been any changes into constitutional, state, federal laws? And another thing, CALEA helps us out with that as well. And so we're always going to be able to stay on top to make sure that we're where we're supposed to be with our body camera program. And also, do we need to do any training needs? So if we're seeing officers or having some training issues doing traffic stops, maybe we need to increase in that area. Or we may identify that a policy we have in place is not, where it needs to be, we can change it. That's stuff we can capture through this footage. Some of the benefits, of course, you get recorded evidence and accurate documentation of the events. That's very important when you're in court. And like I said, the common thing now is we're getting subpoenaed pretty much for every case for in-car and body camera footage because it shows a jury, it shows a judge, it shows lawyers, hey, what happened? Because we all know that if it's not recorded, there's always two stories, right? This can give you a little accurate look at that. Enhanced ability for probable cause. That's what we're guided by, to be able to go to a magistrate and get warrants, get search warrants, stuff like that. Then we can use that camera footage. Helps us with our investigations and complaints. We do receive those from time to time, and it would be easy to go back, pull up that body camera footage, and see what that full interaction is. Because a lot of times that stuff is not captured by the in-car camera. Provide a quality assessment of officer and citizen contacts. Of course, provide training aid for officers. We do it with in-car cameras. Sergeant sees something that needs to be addressed, he can call the officer in. They can sit there and review it, and they can kind of debrief on it and see if we can make corrections. Or again, if there's something positive, also reinforce that as well. And of course, trust within our community because we're following the best practices. We're being transparent. If people, the community knows that, hey, we're looking at stuff, we're reviewing it, we're taking that stuff and improving our training and our policies, it just builds that trust that we have within the community. So the next steps, we have a policy in place. I believe you all have in your packet. I have a copy of it as well. We'll be reviewing that policy, make sure it's good to go. Once it is good to go and to be issued out, then the officers will receive training on the policy and they'll sign off they received that training. At that time, the body cameras can be deployed to the officers. We do have the body cameras currently, so it'd be nothing to turn around and get them out. But they also will receive training on how to operate the body camera. One thing we're looking at doing is transitioning our in-car cameras. Right now, our in-car cameras is a different vendor. And so we'd like to switch all those in-car cameras to the same Axon format. We're doing that two ways. One is our new cars that are coming out. We're putting the Axon in-car cameras in there. And we also have received initial award letter that we received funding to switch out all the in-car cameras. So we're still waiting on that funding, but if that's received, we'll be able to switch out all the in-car cameras. The great thing about that is the body camera will connect to the in-car camera. So if the in-car camera comes on, the body camera comes on likewise. Also with our taser, if the officer pulls out their taser and cuts it on, it will then cut on the body camera and the in-car camera. So it all works seamlessly. So that's one thing that we're looking at as well. And then we'll do an annual review of the program and also look at other things that can go with the body camera. It's very early stages. I think everyone knows about AI technology, but the new body cameras actually have software that can dictate the entire call and communication that took place. So when the officer sits in the car, it can upload the entire thing. So it can say, you know, Miss Jane Doe said this, officer said this, and it will save time when it comes to writing reports. So still kind of monitoring that and see where that goes here in the future. So the officers are very excited about this. When body cameras first came out, officers were a little hesitant to it, and that was just nationwide. But now it's become, hey, we really want these. That's what kind of drove this to purchase these body cameras. So very appreciative of the support of the board to be able to purchase these body cameras, and look forward to getting this program getting it taken off. So if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any you have.
Anything from the board? Any questions, comments?
Chief, I appreciate this and the detail that went into it. Can you talk for a second to all of us in the public about how this could be released, or how body cam footage will be released by the department? If there's a request made, can anyone come in off the street and say, hey, I'd like to have some body cam footage? Under what circumstances they would be able to be entitled to those, or would we release those?
Yeah, good question. There's actually state law that governs that. So no one can just come in and just look at the body camera. You have to actually go through a judge and get a court order. And once you get that, depending on the circumstance, an attorney or the person directly involved, or say family, if someone's deceased because of something that occurred during that, can actually come in and then view it. There is a special circumstance in there that if we deem this in the best interest of the community to release the video, again, we'll go through a judge, of course, conversation with the town manager, we can do that. That's really your high-profile stuff, officer-involved shootings, stuff like that. You can do that as well. But if it comes to, say somebody's been charged with something and they want a copy of it, then that'd go through the normal subpoena process for a trial. But anything outside of that, there is that process, and we'll make sure that's communicated to the public. So if we do get those requests, they know, hey, this is the steps you have to go through to get it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Anything else from the board? Thank you. We appreciate
Thank
the
you. Appreciate it.
information. Thank you. All right, let's move into section 5, our public hearings. Item 5A is a request to rezone approximately 3.58 of an acre from residential 3 to downtown mixed-use conditional district to create railside townhomes. Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and board
Good evening.
members. The public hearing before you tonight is Conditional District 2402. The request is to rezone approximately 3.58 acres from residential 3 to downtown mixed-use conditional district to create what would be called railside townhomes. In a conditional district, there is a site plan attached, a preliminary site plan. It is different than a regular rezoning. So in conditional districts, there's always a site plan, so we get to see the full details of the project. The applicant's requesting to rezone this acreage. It's at the corner of Wendell Falls Parkway and Cook Street. The intent is to create 8 townhome units. property is located 200 Wendell Falls Parkway and identified as the pin in reference. As I said, the project's at the corner of Cook and Wendell Falls, and the units are all within 300 feet of that intersection. To the north and west, there are single-family homes and apartments. There are some single-story apartments on Cook Street that are brick, and they may look like duplex type, but for a land use standpoint, they are apartments. To the south is a property that was rezoned to DMX Conditional District for a real estate office. And to the east is a commercial business, Chocolates by Whitney. Additional commercial uses between the site and downtown occur. And the site is roughly 1/3 of a mile to the intersection of 4th and Main Street and is not located within the Wendell Historic District. You can see some of the neighboring zoning. Mostly to the west is residential 3, and to the north, and then to the east and south is DMX or DMX conditional. Here's a map of the site. The property in question for tonight is the red hatched. You can see Whitney's Chocolate is that small little building on that larger parcel that's labeled DMX. Melvin's Garage is manufacturing and industrial and is highlighted in purple. The real estate office is hatched directly to the south. And then there was a rezoning at 212 Wendell Falls Parkway for a home to become a commercial use that's in process. The overall site plan, the access for the garages into the units would be off of Cook Street. There's 4 units that would face Wendell Falls Parkway, and then 4 units that would face the property to the west. There are attached zoning conditions. Anytime we have zoning conditions, those are offered by the developer or the property owner. In this case, we'll go through each of these. Zoning condition 1, all units to be rear-loaded garages from the alley, so there are no garages facing Wendell Falls Parkway or a neighboring property. Zoning condition 2, a 15-foot landscape buffer shall be provided along the western lot line to include a 6-foot tall stained wood privacy fence and type B buffer plantings. Condition 3, all end units shall have at least 1 window per floor. Condition 4, building height shall be limited to 3 stories. Condition 5, siding material to be fiber cement. Vinyl siding is not permitted. However, vinyl windows, trim, and decorative elements are permitted. Condition 6 is related to open space. The plans show roughly 1,500 square feet of open space on the site. The applicant is proposing a fee in lieu for the remaining roughly what's required on the site, 6,400. We have, in the past, all fee in lieu payments come to you for approval by the town board. There have been other projects in the downtown area that have proposed a fee in lieu instead of providing recreation or open space on their sites. The site is within walking distance of the Wendell Community Park. Condition 7, townhomes and multifamily residential shall be a use by right with a maximum of 8 residential units. Condition number 8, development shall be excluded from the 0.5 connectivity index due to its infill nature and existing street pattern. Condition 9, the size of the garage shall be 20 by 20 and shall accommodate 2 vehicles in the 2 refuse garbage recycling containers. Environmental, due to the size of this project, the applicant does not have to obtain erosion control permit from Wake County, only if there's more than a ½ acre of disturbance, or a stormwater permit, which is an acre of disturbance. Buffers, as mentioned in the zoning condition, they are providing a 15-foot type B buffer with an opaque fence, which is allowed per the UDO. Typically, without a fence, the buffer is 20 feet. If you do a fence, you can go down to 15, which they are proposing. They're also proposing street trees along Cook Street and Wendell Falls Parkway as required. Open space, as we mentioned, the UDO requires 1,000 square feet of open space per townhome unit, and portions of that need to be active versus passive. In this case, they are required to meet minimum 8,000 square feet of open space. The plan shows roughly 1,500. They are asking for a fee in lieu for that would be covered in a fee in lieu at a future time. Streams and wetlands, the site does not contain any streams, wetlands, or floodplains. Transportation, 8 townhome units does not meet our threshold for a TIA. The applicant is dedicating on their plans 8.5 feet of right-of-way along Wendell Falls Parkway, which other projects on that corridor have had to do as well, and 1 foot of right-of-way along Cook Street as required. All lots do have the required 2 parking spaces in their garages for this project. And the plan does show 1 phase at this time. Here are building elevations submitted by the applicant. You can see it meets their zoning conditions where there are windows on those sides. And also you can see the garages that face the internal alley. Blueprint Wendell 2030 classifies this area as the downtown core, downtown fringe area, which allows for townhomes is an allowed use, as well as other commercial uses, and also other types of residential. It does also include using kind of a grid network, which is existing in this case. Open space should be in the form of pocket parks, neighborhood parks, and as I mentioned, the Wendell Community Park is within walking distance of this site. At any time during a rezoning, any recommended change to a zoning map shall be accompanied by a statement. The downtown core fringe place type does call for attached single-family townhomes and multifamily condos and apartments are allowed to create a synergy in the district within walking connectivity throughout. The plan is consistent with Blueprint Wendell 2030 and can be considered reasonable as it assists with 2 goals. Roughly 1 is diversify housing to appeal to different groups, age, income, lifestyle preference, and family situation. Also downtown, consider opportunities to diversify the uses, including residential. Having a critical mass of local businesses, workers, and residents helps create a more vibrant place. Young and older benefit from living in downtown and mixed-use environments. The applicant did hold a virtual neighborhood meeting on November 14th. Just for everyone's reference, those are held by the developer with neighboring adjacent properties. Town staff does not participate in those. It's a requirement of our UDO that the developer conduct those. We do not attend. We let the neighbors and the developer speak with each other, and we're not involved. The meeting minutes from that are in your packet. Technical review committees completed their review. Technical review committee is made up of town departments as well as City of Raleigh, who does our utilities, Wake County based on soil, stormwater, and erosion control, and also Wake County Fire Services on behalf of Wendell Fire. Staff comments, the proposed development is consistent with the comp plan and could be considered reasonable since it fulfills goals of the comp plan noted above. And also the planning board did meet on December 16th and voted 6-1 to recommend denial of the project. The planning board recommendation is attached as well. I can field any questions you have at this time. I know there are residents here who would like to speak as well as the development team.
Let's open the public hearing. Anything from the board at this time? Right. Did you say the applicant had a presentation?
They do not have a presentation I'm aware of. They are here
Okay.
in the public. I know there's members from the public as well.
Okay, all right. Okay, so members of the public have 5 minutes to speak. And quick reminder, sometimes issues can become contentious and people have strong feelings. I just want to remind you about outbursts and applause and things like that. I don't permit things like that. We want to maintain the dignity of our business meeting. So whoever would like to be first, I'm going to call out names. You can come on up, give me your name and address.
My name is Bradley Barham. I live at 125 Wendell Falls Parkway. This is the property catty corner to the proposed property. We were at the last planning board meeting when they voted 6-1 to not recommend it. Me and my wife moved out here from downtown Raleigh in 2015. That was back when Wendell Falls was still an idea. There was about 20 homes there. We toured one of those homes, and then we toured our home. Our home was built in 1938. We fell in love with the history of downtown Wendell. We are one of the 13 homes on the historic North Carolina Historic Register. When we came to the board and we told them that with the planning committee, we talked about how we did not want our downtown to mimic Wendell Falls. I love that we have two different versions of Wendell. We have this historic piece that you can have, and if you need modern conveniences, you can go 5 miles down the road, and it's right there for you. We chose to live in downtown Wendell, not Wendell Falls. No knock to people that live in Wendell Falls. We frequent there, we grocery shop there, we eat there. It's great. We live in historic downtown Wendell. We thought we were moving into something that was pretty safe, a historic district surrounded by nothing but historic homes. The home where this project is being talked about being built, that home was built in 1901. Our home was built in 1938, is on the historic register. The home that they demolished was built in 1901. It was one of the oldest homes in Wendell. Their argument was that it was not in the historic district. It's sandwiched in between this really beautiful little parcel between the train tracks. On the other side of the train tracks, as you go toward 1st Street or 3rd Street, there's nothing but Victorian homes on the historic register. Then you get to this corridor. Their argument was, well, there's already 2 other businesses there. Why can't we rezone this? Those 2 businesses set up shop in structures that already existed. They took existing historical homes and turned them into a business. That's awesome. What they're saying they want to do is synergy. They want it to blend in. What they're talking about building is something that is going to stand out like a sore thumb in historic Wendell. All of our homes were roughly built around the same times. They look the part. It feels like a community. They're talking about putting up a 3-story monolith on both sides. If you weren't here for the planning committee, there's one driveway through the center of that complex they're talking about building. Those illustrations are wildly misleading. That one driveway is supposed to house 16 cars at one given time. One driveway is supposed to house 16 cars. As someone who lives on Cook Street, a good chunk of Cook Street is on my property. I own that half acre right there on the corner, so right across from Whitney's. If any of y'all have ever been to Whitney's Chocolate Shop on Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, Christmas, you've seen what happens when both sides of that street get parked on. 2 cars aren't going. It's one in, one out, one in, one out. If this goes up, do you think that all 16 of those cars are going to want to park in their 20 by 20 garage? Or do you think that for convenience, just to get out in the morning, get to work on time, they're going to park on Cook Street? Just so that they don't have to deal with their neighbors. The answer is yes. They're going to park on Cook Street, and it's going to become wild. It already takes me 20 minutes to back out of my driveway between 4 and 6 p.m. That road's not getting widened anytime soon. Wendell Falls Parkway is not getting widened anytime soon. We might get a turn lane at the end if we're lucky. When we moved here, the town board said that we were going to get a stoplight at Wendell Falls Parkway and Wendell Boulevard. That was 10 years ago, and we still don't have that stoplight. As someone that, if anybody lives away from downtown Wendell, you don't have to deal with that traffic. And if you do, you're like, man, it took me a long time to get to the food line. But as someone who lives there, you can't back out of that driveway. So add 16 more cars, more congestion, more construction. That is a bus stop for the kids. Add another year of construction there. This town is growing at an exponential rate, and I love that. It's quickly becoming one of the key hubs to Eastern Raleigh, which we will one day be. We will just be Eastern Raleigh. I love that. I love that Wendell is getting put on the map. I love that I don't have to explain to people where I live anymore. I love that when I tell people I'm from Wendell, they're like, I hear great things are happening out there. This is not one of those great things. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next. No clapping, remember? That's okay. If it gets away from me, I'll never get it back. I have to keep it. I learned the hard way. Give me your name and address.
Hi, my name is Andrew Layton. I live at 403 Cook Street. I'm about 4 spots down from where the housing is proposed. I'll just keep this short since the person before me has most of the same notes that I had, and I haven't had a lot of time to prepare for this. But I was mostly just going to bring up the traffic issue that we would have at the location, because most time during the day, I hear the cars coming up and down my street, and if we did have 16 or more cars trying to park in that one little driveway that they have proposed for the buildings, it would be a nightmare for the most part. I also worry that some of them may try to park on the Wendell Falls Street, not realizing that may be a bad idea. We had an issue a few weeks ago where a U-Haul was on Wendell Falls Street, like up near the stop sign, down from where the housing is proposed, and traffic was backed up for a long while. So I worry about that. I also worry about how my home was built in about 1920. I still have old concrete walls at the front of my house. And I worry that these new townhouses will just look horrible compared to everything else on that street. All the homes there are old, they're unique, they have their old style to them, and all these new houses they propose will just look so ugly. So we live in the historic area for the most part, and I know we're not in the historic district on Cook Street, but all of our homes are on the older side, and it would be a better look if we kept it with an older look to all of our homes there. Yeah, oh, another thing I thought of, if I noticed that on the plans for the houses there, that all the doorways lead out towards the Wendell Falls Parkway. If any of the people there want to pull out their trash bins for the night, which we always get our trash on Monday nights, Monday mornings, and I worry that they will try to put them on the Wendell Falls Street, which would cause a large traffic jam with our garbage trucks coming by and trying to pick them up every Monday, which would, again, be a huge traffic jam that we would all have to deal with. So that's the main thing I have. I'm just highly against it, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
My name is Robert Dale, 108 Wendell Falls Parkway. I'd like to thank the mayor and the town commissioners for letting us come and say our piece. I live directly behind David Williams CPA office, which was, some of you may know, was the old Wendell Christian Church and the old public library. That was built in 1914. My house was built in 1912. We bought it in 2003, began renovations in 2010, and I think everybody was glad when we got through with our renovation because we kept Wendell. It was North Buffalo Street then, now Wendell Falls, pretty much congested for almost a year and a half. Also, in that same block, at 120, 124, and 125, as mentioned back here, Wendell Falls Parkway, have all been old houses that have been renovated, and all of us spend quite a bit of time and money in those renovations. And also not to forget the house, it's 3300 Wendell Boulevard, which was built in 1890, which is the old boarding school for the old Wendell Academy. And all of these are in the historic district, and which abuts the property that they're asking to be rezoned. And I'd like to acknowledge and thank the Wendell Planning Board for denying the request as proposed. I would certainly hope that all the commissioners have had an opportunity to go by and take a look at this, physically take a look at this piece of property. It is not a large, it's right at 1/3 of an acre. It is not a very large piece of property. And if you take a look at the picture and try to envision two 4-unit buildings going up on that small piece of property, it would be amazing to see how that would be significantly done. You know, everybody that lives on our block and several blocks over do have spent a lot of time and money to improve and attract different people to invest in that particular area. And we were actually the first ones when we did our renovation in 2010 to start that process. And like I said, it's at least on our block, it's caught on. Block behind us is several old renovations going on. And we don't mind the commercial that's already going up, that's already there. It's has very minimal impact on the traffic or on us. Believe me, I am pro-development. I retired from a sector of the building industry, and I have no problems with the project going up in the right location, the right project. But this project is not correct for this location. One other item is this proposed fee in lieu of that's mentioned in the request. I've checked with and done some research from the City of Raleigh and also the Urban Institute, and most payments of this type are for consideration for affordable housing and also for stormwater infrastructure, not for the reduction of setback or open space requirements to make this development fit on this small piece of property. So I'm just asking the commissioners to deny this request, and because we're just trying to maintain a desirable neighborhood environment for all of us to enjoy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Kate Benson. My address is 500 Spicy Court in Wendell. I do not live adjacent to the property, but I do travel along that Wendell Falls Boulevard corridor multiple times a day. So I come to you tonight with a list of questions, questions that I kind of pontificate on as I read this proposal, and I would hope that you all would too, to kind of further cement whether or not this should happen and the way that you vote. They also are concerns that may not be included in a glossy developer presentation. So just things that kind of come about when I see this potential, and especially since there are so many concessions that are being proposed to happen to make this fit within this space. Starting with the compatibility to the adjacent structures. As you've heard from many others here tonight, this structure doesn't really match aesthetically what is around it, right? The older homes, the historic natures of property, whether or not they're in the district, the function and design of how these structures are put forth. I also wonder about compatibility with ADA requirements. Will these structures have elevators, right? When we talk about all stages of life, I would think that that would be something that we would want to think about as well. And then also the impact to traffic, probably one of the most hot button issues related to this. You know, Wendell Falls Boulevard is such a main thoroughfare. From downtown Wendell and beyond to Wendell Falls and Knightdale, et cetera, with so many large construction vehicles taking up space on this main thoroughfare, how will traffic be handled during the construction of this? No doubt a large, tall space like this will require big, heavy machinery. Will that be parking on Wendell Falls Boulevard to create traffic jams, or Cook Street to create traffic jams as well? These are questions that we should be asking. Post-construction, has there been a traffic study done to determine the impact of additional residents in this very small space? And then beyond that, the impacts of things like delivery trucks, mail trucks, those things that are going in and out as well, in addition to the cars. I just get very concerned about how much density is happening within this small space, and especially so close to a railroad crossing. It feels like there would be a lot of visibility issues. I hear a lot about the desire of walkability in our downtown area, which is awesome. I love that. As somebody who lives across Wendell Boulevard, we regularly walk downtown, and I am in full support of enhancing that. Walkability is not something that's achieved by building more, but rather building better, and considering how much the traffic flow, both on foot and on four wheels or two wheels, will impact that. There's still going to be a lot of traffic of people going to grocery stores that are not downtown, schools that are not downtown, doctor's appointments, the like. Impact to surrounding areas. I learned that this fee in lieu was brought up. My biggest concern is what are we doing to offset the removal of natural vegetation? Fee in lieu is something that I'll be happy to research myself, because it sounds a lot like kind of a way to get around that, right? With green backs rather than green trees. Also, how will the existence of the structure negatively impact your voters directly? Will this be a rental situation? Is there going to be, things put in place to prevent them from being Airbnbs, things like that? Ultimately, these are my questions. These are your voters' questions. I want to know why here, literally specifically this 3rd-acre lot. We know why everybody wants to come to Wendell. It's because it's so great, and it's because we have so much to offer. But why are we putting this here? Thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have 3 questions, that's it. I'm Larry.
Come up here and say them, and give me your name and address.
Larry Layton. I live on 14 Canterbury Court, but I currently own 403 Cook Street. My question is, I didn't have this question until I saw your presentation. You're supposed to have 8,000 square feet of permeable soil. Is that correct?
Sir, if you can direct your comments to the board, not
All
staff.
right. Well, I was asking him, but
Yeah, we'll try to-
you're supposed to have 8,000 square feet of permeable soil, and you only have 1,600 square foot proposed. Where's that stormwater going, and can that be handled by the street? I know, I've owned that piece of property for 15 years, and I know of at least 4 occasions where heavy rains have caused sewage to back up on that street. Has anybody thought about the planning of, can the water does that run from Wendell Falls, or does that run back on Cook Street, is my question. The other thing is, are we allowing this to be built so somebody can make a profit, or do we actually need these people to move in that spot? That's my questions.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
I'm Sarah Owens. I'm at 120 Wendell Falls.
Come up to the podium. Okay.
Sure. Sarah Owens, 120 Wendell Falls. And same thing, traffic. It's not very functional. If you look at the drawing, it was the last unit on the far side, touches the fence, so you can't even go around the building if you look at how that's drawn. Let's see, there's a bus stop there, so it's super unsafe for kids. We're gonna get more kids probably in the area. Elementary school's right up the street. My neighbor's kid used to walk to elementary school, I think both of them actually. But increased traffic, we could have more danger for the kids, obviously. And it just does not fit. So the town plan was saying something to the effect of a smooth transition. And again, the monolith, I think that's what somebody termed it, was pretty good. Does not fit. Nightdale's done some pretty good stuff with like duplexes and things like that that had yards. I could totally see something like that go in there, 2 stories. 3 stories seems a bit much. Again, 120, I look out, it would be a wall of cement board or vinyl or whatever it ends up being. So it just not a good fit for our community. So think about, would you want that beside your house? And then also the extra strain on police, fire. If one catches on fire, 8 families are definitely going to be displaced because it's going to spread. And then you're going to have a lot more domestic disputes because this guy's going to try to get out of his driveway or parking area, and this one can't. So it's just going to be a huge headache for everyone involved that we're all going to have to hear about. I think that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Laurel Hefner, and I live at 128 Wendell Falls Boulevard. I echo all of my neighbors' sentiments. Things that really strike me is this in lieu of the green space, because that's something that's in our master report, you know, that the public, our constituents, your constituents are screaming for more green space, and I just think it's because we don't have enough of it, and we're not requiring it as we go. We're letting these kind of things, you know, okay, we'll just get some green space later on down the line, when we need to have it all the time. You know, my friends want houses with yards, with, you know, right there, right where they're living. And another thing that comes to mind from our master plan is, you know, we want to offer diversified housing. And I read one of the statistics in there, like 1 in 6 of our residents is handicapped. It's not offering, you know, that to that demographic at all. It's not offering us anything new. It looks like everything else that we're seeing going up, crammed in a little spot, right on the street, you know, not aesthetically pleasing, not functional, not desirable at all. Those are the 2 main things that stick out to me. And also the historic district, because that is a corridor of history down that road. And that was the other thing that really stuck out. So thank you for your time, and I hope that you will not approve this project.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I had one thing.
Sure. But you got to come up here to do it.
Just in case anyone here didn't have time to look over the town planning 6-1 vote, when asked, there was a representative here from the committee who's building this piece of property. When asked why not 2 homes, why not 3 homes, why not a smaller amount of homes on this very small piece of property, the answer was, we can't turn a big enough profit. Just wanted to point that out.
Anyone else?
Madam Mayor, members of the board, thank you for having us here this evening. I'm Lewis Hardy with RDU Consulting. I'm a professional engineer and professional land surveyor in North Carolina. So we consulted with the owner who's represented here with Cook Street Partners. So I'd like to take an opportunity and address some of the questions, some of the other concerns. I thought I would start by kind of picking up where planning left off with place types. Going back to Blueprint 2030, the comprehensive plan, which according to the land use plan, the place type for this parcel in downtown is downtown core, downtown fringe, which lends itself to the zoning that we're proposing, DMX. Again, this zoning also specifies detached or, attached single family, which would be townhomes, multifamily, other components being mixed use, potentially ground floor retail with residential spaces above. We believe in this area of town being right at the edge of the downtown core and the fringe, that this is a really appropriate product for this site. In keeping with the comprehensive plan, what you would see typically in this transition area would be dense multifamily, a townhome type product, which lends itself to a transition between that retail mixed-use spaces that will one day come to Wendell, but a transition between those spaces and what you would see as being dense detached single family, and then out from there, larger single family lots. So we believe that this location at the corner and being located within this place type according to the comp plan, we believe that is appropriate for this area. We also see that this project has the potential to be a catalyst for other development that will be in keeping with the comp plan, which again does call for this denser mixed use and residential product. We do agree that there are areas and there are homes and parcels in this historic district and in the downtown core that do not liken themselves to the product that we're proposing. We realize that we are adjoining a historic district. This particular property is not in the historic district, nor was the home or property itself deemed historic. It was not necessarily desire on our part of the developer to simply demolish the house. The fact is that the home was dilapidated. The home was dangerous. In fact, I know that there were some inspections that were provided by staff in which even the flooring of the porch fell through when they were trying to conduct an inspection. So this was not a home that could be saved or rehabbed. And also in keeping with the strategic plan, which calls for more infill developments and for the demolition of dilapidated homes, we believe that we're in keeping with that plan as well. To hit on, I guess, some of the other concerns, I heard a lot about traffic. We are putting 8 residential units where there once was 1. We'll say according to the ITRE trip generation, the estimated total AM peak hour trips, so that's peak morning hour trips would be 4. The total peak PM trips for this development would be 5. So if that gives you a sense of the amount of traffic that would be generated in addition to what's currently there. I heard some concerns about garbage collection. Garbage collection, the garbage refuse containers will be housed inside the units, inside the back of the garage. We have provided a place for them with the architecture that will not interfere with the vehicles that are parked in the garage. The town's garbage collection may either pick up those refuse containers from inside the site, accessed by the alley, or on Cook Street. Likewise with mail, that's deposited at the mail kiosk that we have planned. Open space fee in lieu is something that's been discussed a good bit as well, which, as you all know, is a UDO article that has been adopted by the town to allow for a fee in lieu for open space that is not provided on site or is not desirable to be provided on site. I think that the board and staff can probably provide a little bit more context to why that is written into the UDO and why that's valuable to the town and growing their public park spaces. So if there's any comment you guys wanted to add regarding the fee in lieu, I think that might be helpful moving forward. I don't know that I have a whole lot of other items there. If you all have any questions for me or for the owner who's present.
Any questions for the applicant from the board?
I have a couple questions, but I may come back to
Okay.
you, but I'd like to start with Jim, if that's okay. Jim, can you talk about fee in lieu payments and what we're legally allowed, or what we're allowed to take them for and what we use them for routinely?
Well, in this situation, they're authorized by your code and by state law, so you're within the bounds of legal propriety on both of those.
So I appreciate that, and it does, right, like the title fee in lieu, I can see where that creates confusion because it used in different ways on different projects in different things, but primarily it is on this site, we don't have the ability to address this particular concern, but we understand, like for instance, sidewalks, if there's not a site or not a place for the sidewalk to go, but it otherwise would be required. Years ago, we came up with a policy that said, hey, look, give us that sidewalk and put it somewhere else. And that's why a lot of the new sidewalk you see in downtown, any sidewalk that you see in most of the downtown core that is new or that has been fixed, came from fee in lieu of money from somewhere else in the community that couldn't build it. So that's the public purpose of fee in lieu of funds. And I wanted to just, that's a big looming one that, at least in my brain when I heard that, and it kind of sounded like, is this okay or not? I wanted to just clear the air before we have the rest of the conversation on that, Madam Mayor.
That it? Right.
For right now, yes, ma'am.
Any questions for the applicant from the board?
I've got a battery of questions, so let's see if I can, and I apologize if I bounce around. And this may go to a variety of people. I'm going to go with what I remember last for you first, the trash can collection. So will that be on Cook Street, or are you saying it's going to be in the alleyway?
I believe it could be picked up in the alleyway. I think alternatively, they could be rolled out to Cook Street for collection.
I guess my concern is, can a truck get down 16 feet of right-of-way, the distance between me and that flag, and get back without being able to turn? You have to go back and then back up, correct?
Sure.
For that to happen.
Right. Yeah, I think you're familiar with Wendell Falls.
Yes, sir.
The alleyways there, I think, are even narrower than what we're proposing. We are proposing 16 feet. I think you can go down to 12. We didn't feel like 12 was practical for this site, so 16 feet giving, residents as well as garbage collection a little bit more leeway. But yes, garbage collection can occur on the alleyway. Alternatively, Cook Street. I don't think we've approached.
If I may, the struggle I've got is in Wendell Falls for the 12-footers, you still have a driveway and then the garage, and they're also not side by side, so they're not continuously running. There's a space because there's a 1/10 of an acre or 15-acre lot. So then you have trash cans that are, 8, 9, 10 feet apart, so they're not side by side, but you don't have 16 cans all the way side by side. And I'm not trying to make the whole thing about trash collection, but I'm just trying to address the concerns that the public has had, and if they can be absolved.
Sure.
So is this a staff question? Meaning, are we able to say, yes, it's going to go on Cook Street, and the alleyway doesn't make as much efficiency?
Yes, so just one comment related to the site plan. So there is space, roughly a few feet between the garage door and the 16-foot alleyway. So there is space on individual properties for their refuse cans in the alleyway, whether it's the recycling or the trash. So there is a gap between that 16-foot alleyway and the entrance to the garage,
Okay,
which
thank
is where many people who live in alleys will place their garbage can at the end of their driveway, which in this case, there's not a driveway for a car, but there's a few feet between the garage door and the alleyway.
Okay.
Is there room for the arm of the trash truck to come out and get the can and dump it and put it back, since it's right up against the wall of a building on both sides? You see what I'm saying?
So there is 16 feet of,
overhang
so there's 16 feet of pavement, and then there's additional few feet on each side. So there's roughly, let's say, 20 feet between the buildings. which is, as Mr. Hardy referenced, there are alleyways in Wendell Falls that are 12 feet of pavement, and the trucks do operate in those alleyways. So there, from a staff perspective, there is room. The truck, in case of a Wendell Falls alley, the alley has an entrance and an exit, and so trucks don't back up. In this case, if a truck pulls in, they will have to back out, or they will back in and then pull out. But that, if the cans do go in the alleyway, that's their option, or the cans can go on Cook Street.
Do we happen to know the amount of space that GFL would like you to have for those trash can trucks? Do we happen to know that?
They have, I know Public Works is here tonight. I don't know if they're prepared to answer that question. But the
I thought
trucks,
you might
the
know.
truck sizes vary based on our development. So there's not one truck that goes into all the alleys. Sometimes there are different smaller trucks that they're using to get in our alleys. Because we have,
because of
at
the
Wendell
limited
Falls is not our
space.
only alley driven neighborhood. We have many alleys in Wendell.
Okay, thank you.
Commercial and residential, new and old alleys.
Go ahead, I'm done.
No, thank you. Next question. Build out on Cooks, so the build out in general. So, gentleman made a point that when he did his reconstruction and refurbishment, there was a concern that the build out would be on Wendell Falls Parkway. So, how do you address the build out of those units and that much construction in that area?
When you say build out with reference,
Construction materials, trucks, things of that nature. That so, how much impact will it have on the surrounding citizens or Wendell Falls Parkway versus say Cook Street?
right, I mean, I think laydown area will be internal to the site. Obviously, I think everyone here is aware of how busy Wendell Falls Parkway is, as well as it's regulated by NCDOT, which gives us probably, maybe an additional standard to adhere to. So laydown and access, I imagine, is primarily going to be off of Cook Street. And the project, I imagine, will also be phased as far as the construction taking place one building at the time. So we'll have a little bit of room in order to do some laydown areas that will be on site, but and that's kind of a construction means and methods type thing that we can also work through the town, work with the town and Public Works on how that's achieved. So I guess in short, we won't be clogging up Wendell Falls Parkway with construction vehicles and laydown and that type of thing.
So my understanding though was going to be one phase, so you could build two at a time. I mean,
Right. As far as the actual construction of the buildings themselves, it could be done in two phases, right? The site work construction will be done in one phase.
so hypothetically, let me ask this question, and I apologize, but I'm going to this level because of the number of concerns. Fundamentally, I am for infill projects. So, but on the same token, I want it to be the best project that it can be. I'm one voice up here, but I had a variety of questions. So here's my next question. This may be also a staff question. Not that I don't trust you, but can we hold them to that? Meaning, what I don't want to have happen is for a year, I've got a problem on Wendell Falls Parkway before that signal light comes in at Wendell Falls Parkway and Wendell Boulevard. And perhaps that's my second question is, how far away is that? I know the gentleman said 10 years. I know we're close. How close are we? Two-part question.
So I'll answer the traffic signal question first, and then I'll go to your, anytime a developer asks to use public right-of-way is my second response. First, the traffic signal, we received bids for the traffic signal at Wendell Falls Parkway and Wendell Boulevard. Construction will begin this spring. There will be agenda items at your next meeting that talk about the cost of the project and where funding will come from beyond the initial approval from the state and the federal funds that were authorized in 2020. So construction will begin this spring, and you'll have agenda items before you on that at the next meeting. The construction and engineering services RFP went out today, was approved by NCDOT, and so that project is moving forward and has a 6-month time frame for that signal installation and pedestrian improvements and stormwater improvements from Wendell Boulevard down to Cook Street, because there's currently no underground stormwater from the boulevard down to Cook Street. And so that project it was added to the scope during design, and those improvements will be done. So it's larger than just a traffic signal at the intersection. Second, If a developer wanted to use, which I know the answer from NCDOT they're not going to close a lane of Wendell Falls Parkway to allow construction equipment to park in that. Cook Street is a town street. We own the right-of-way. If anyone wanted to use that, it would have to have town authorization to close that street or to use any portion of it. And typically, we have not allowed that for construction at all. Where you will see streets in Wendell Falls, those are all developer controlled. So the developer can shut those streets down. Those are not town public streets during construction. We take them over once construction is finished. So, and in a new development, you will see streets closed or equipment blocking those. But in a town like Cook Street, that's our right-of-way. They would have to come for you for authorization to close that right-of-way for a significant amount of time, which we would not recommend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to yield. I don't want to. Okay. Has there been discussion, and I'll use the example of Wendell Falls, if you come into, say, Piney Falls, and there's a similar set of townhomes, and I actually went to this today, and I paced it off when I paced off yours today just to get a feel for it, and you're roughly the same density of what I've seen out there, and that is the entrance to homes that are worth $800,000. One of the parade homes was out there. So from a standpoint of can it go, it can, and I'll hold off the historical district for a moment. I guess my question is, was there any consideration of, given that it was a 6-1 negative vote, was there any consideration of allowing some sort of guest parking? The reason is in Wendell Falls, we have designated areas that you can park on. So I gather there's a larger alleyway, and I gather there's a two-car garage. But still, to the gentleman's point, if someone is in a hurry coming home from work and has a grocery store or whatever, for the convenience, was there a discussion to look at some sort of 7 units and guest parking, 6 units and guest parking?
Yeah, our directive as engineers, we looked at accommodating 8 units. As far as the parking, you know, I would say that, well, firstly, Cook Street does allow on-street parking. Related to Wendell Falls does not allow on-street parking. So therefore, if they do need visitor parking, it cannot be accommodated on the street. It must be in an actual, it's either parallel parking or it's some type of other guest parking lot elsewhere. So, you know, we're fortunate that yes, you know, we can have some on-street parking. I believe we may even have the ability to potentially stripe parallel spaces there on Cook Street to accommodate. I don't think we imagine that the residents here will have more than 2 vehicles. As to whether they will utilize their garage every night when they come home or not, or park on the street, I really, you know, I have no assumptions there.
I would argue that the traffic is probably from Wendell doubling in the last 5 to 6 years, as opposed to 8 or 9 or 16 more calls on Cook Street. But with that said, I think the fundamental problem is going to be that signalization of Wendell Falls Parkway and Wendell Boulevard, which, again, to staff's comment, we'll have that shortly. I know to the gentleman who's heard it every 10 years, but hopefully we're going to actually have it this time because we have it funded. But next question. Good point, too. Lot number 8, the stoop does appear to me to, like does the door open up to a fence? Am I just, like I'm 6'5", and I feel like if I walked outside that, there's 3 feet and I want to run into a fence if I open the door?
Unit 8, no, I think from the stoop, you know, we have several feet. I would say at least 8 feet from the stoop to the fence. As far as, you know, that western or kind of southwestern corner of Unit 8, we actually did recognize that, and we will be addressing how close that unit is to the fence in construction drawings, as far as how that functions.
So there might be a change to that?
It will be a modification probably to how that unit is shown or exactly the placement of the fence. You know, as far as the placement of the fence that's shown, it's more or less schematically shown within that landscape buffer. So we'll be working to just tweak that a little bit to provide a little bit more space in that area.
Let me ask you this then, and I apologize to the other members up here, but I want to end it with this last one. Is time of the essence for you on this? Is that an owner question?
That's probably an owner question, yes.
Is he able to answer that question?
If we have some more questions that would be directed towards me, can we take care of those?
I'll hold that one. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll yield. Thank you.
I did want to say also regarding GFL and garbage collection, we work with GFL on numerous projects that we have, and we're used to coordinating with them to get their approval on the site and exactly how and where they want to perform that pickup. So that's an exercise that we can go through with GFL to ensure that they're happy with how we meet their requirements, and they can indicate to us where their pickup location can be.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board right now?
I just clarified that GFL's contract is with the town for in-town service. And so any lots created in town, that GFL service would be coordinated with the town, not the developer. And so we would be providing any oversight or concern of that.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick, and I don't, and Mr. Hardy, thank you for being here. I know that we're trying to kind of address what questions or what took place at planning board. I think for me personally, do we have a presentation on the development itself, or is it you're here to flush out any questions we may have? I know there's concerns. I'm used to a little more, hey, maybe there's a plan B. Hey, maybe we thought about it, talked about it, regrouped a little bit. Is that a thing? Is somebody prepared, or are we just answering any questions that we might have about what's in front of us?
Well, as always, planning staff, Mr. Coates did a great job presenting, the findings from the planning board. I'm kind of here to fill in any blanks there as far as any alternate plans and that type of thing moving forward. I think our owner can probably address his thoughts. But at this point, following the planning board, we decided not to make any changes and continue to move forward based on practicality for the market value of those homes, how they will be marketed and sold, whether it is feasible to do less than 8 units. And I think that has been a mathematical exercise that the owner has performed. To make sure
that.
Right, to make sure that, that we can't make some changes that will be more palatable to the community and the board. I think they can probably address some of those questions a little further.
I mean, on the surface, just real quick, we even talked about the 16 feet and trash cans, and if you have a 20 by 20 garage that is essentially housing 2 cars, well then how can we expect 2 cars to make it down a 16-foot alleyway, for lack of a better term, at the same time?
I would respond by looking at, one of our finest examples in Wendell Falls. Again, I could tell you from my expert opinion what I think, which I think it works fine. I can look in Wendell Falls and see that it works fine every day.
Yeah, and I see it in action all the time, but again, you have a little bit of a shoulder, a cushion, a driveway, a yard, there's a little more ability to yield.
Sure, I understand. And this has been a product that we're familiar with constructing, and this is a product that we're familiar seeing in other municipalities, and so of course we're used to seeing how it functions post-construction, and we firmly believe it will function just fine. We realize that also that there are some garages that afford you a little bit more space. I think many of the garages, again, which we'd see like in the Wendell Falls community, are nominally about the same size. If you desire to own one of these, maybe the market dictates that you have 2 vehicles that aren't, Suburbans and Chevy 3500 dualies. That probably is not the resident for this property. If they desire to have both of those vehicles in the garage. So we feel like a lot of those decisions in the residents will be dictated by how the site is designed.
And I totally support that. I mean, if you're purchasing that, then you have to know what you're getting into ahead of time, not on the backside.
Sure.
And look, it's no secret. I'm okay with townhomes. I'm okay with density. Infill, the same thing. I guess this is a little different than what we're used to in a townhome product, simply because there's not a driveway. There's not space. if I had a grocery store in downtown and a drugstore in downtown, and I knew that people weren't having to go in and out and do the things, you know, maybe it's a little different. I had a dumpster pad, you know, again, I'm just looking for something that's a little bit of a tweak that might make sense. And it doesn't seem like we have it here, so.
Can you go back again about the trips per day, the estimate about the number of trips per day?
Sure. Yeah, based off the ITRE, which is the institute that provides these estimates for different housing and product types, their estimate for total AM trips in the peak hour in the morning would be 4 trips generated by this project. The total PM peak hour trips would be 5.
How can there only be 4 trips if if you're building to accommodate 16 cars?
Well, again, this is during the peak hour in the morning and in the evening. So it's simply an estimate based off of observances over many years, which they've used to generate these numbers from these transportation professionals.
And Mayor, just quickly, because I know this is one of my, you know, I get passionate about traffic studies, and I've learned a lot. It's a weird sentence. I learned a lot from traffic engineers in a previous role, and I really did come to respect them, despite originally having some perspectives, I think, that are very similar to the one you just expressed.
You had to work hard.
And I know, I'm not here to fully explain it or convince anybody of anything today, except to say that I do think that it's, you know, we don't live in a society where, you know, the dystopian movie everybody's seen, where at like exactly 8 a.m. every door opens and every person walks out to their car and drives in a perfect single file line to their, you know, whatever big brother job that they have. And so, like logic obviously says 8 homes, 8 people at least. Hopefully they're all full. Hopefully these are people with jobs that go to work in the morning. But I think that for a long list of reasons, first of all, every adult that owns a home doesn't have a job. Every adult that owns a home doesn't go to work to get to their job at the exact same minute or even within this exact same hour on the exact same days. And so I do think that, like, my logic works the same way yours does. The data that ITRE, the organization that Lewis has referenced, and the science, really the deep math and deep science that goes in to crafting traffic analyses and really doing massive data collection across the country to understand current travel patterns and demand, that housing and all types of development, and very specific to individual types of development, not just a house has this sort of traffic impact, but this type of house in this place has this sort of traffic impact. And the same goes for other types of uses, residential, industrial. There is a lot of science and data behind numbers like those. They're not, and I think that I wish everybody could sit through a long class about traffic engineering, and I'll work on bringing somebody in to do it. But anyway, I know that I'm on a soapbox. It's just one that I'm, as y'all know, very passionate about. I really do appreciate the math and data behind those sort of statistics. And I think I think it only, where I come into trying to explain that is, I think sometimes we try to quickly discount numbers that we think don't make sense on the face without fully taking the time to understand the methodology behind them, and there is significant methodology.
I understand what you're saying, and I can certainly see that in a Raleigh, maybe, downtown in Raleigh, where people are more relying on bus services and things like that. I mean, we don't even have come on, we don't have that here. It's a small town. So, you know, if you have 8 townhomes, I assume most people that buy a home nowadays, or even rent a home, it's a 2-income family. They might have a kid that's starting to drive. There's going to be more than 4 cars coming in and out in the morning, and it might not be but 4 in that little tiny window, but we all know there's going to be more than 4 cars. And I think that's a little bit, I mean, I understand that's what you have to say in your job and where the numbers come from and stuff, but I think to argue with Dean, because I always argue with him, I think I don't want to use the word misleading, that's a strong word, but I think that we need to keep in mind where we are right now. And I mean,
And it's a highly regulated profession with licensed professionals.
Just can't let it go.
And it is illegal
I
to
will s-
practice the profession without a license.
I would say these are not numbers or equations that I generated.
I understand.
You're
You're just a
is,
messenger, and I
well,
get it.
well, in this specific discipline with traffic and transportation, this is something in the deep research and the numbers that are generated, as Dean's hit on, are something it's not developed over even one calendar year. And these are manuals and calculations that are updated very frequently. In fact, I think we're on like our 11th or 12th edition of this ITRE manual. So it's constantly being updated. There's constantly new data that's being gathered, and it's certainly changed over the years. But to hit on that, we see this as being a great walkable project, with its proximity to downtown, its proximity to the park, as well as to the elementary school, all being within about 10 minutes or so walk. So the hope again is that with this type of product that we have folks that are using our sidewalks more, that we here in Wendell spent a lot of time and effort to have in place. We hope that we're having people that visit downtown on foot and patronize our retailers. So, and again, this is being in keeping with the comp plan and what is coming in the future as far as the downtown core and those related zoning districts. Really think that this is a catalyst project. This is what your comp plan calls for. This is what the town went through so much effort to produce over the number of years, with in keeping with also the strategic plan and economic development, the stakeholders who took place in developing that blueprint for Wendell. I think that's important to continue to consider that in the future.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yeah.
I appreciate y'all's traffic lesson. I'm going to try to zoom out for a second and talk about process and how we got here, and how I think what I've observed at high levels tonight, what I've heard, I think there's consensus on, and then I'll give that back to y'all. I've heard a lot tonight, and I welcome a lot of you. This is the first time I've seen you here. I understand people come to meetings when it impacts them. And so there's a lot of things that we say tonight, or a lot of things that may seem implied from us, that if you were here at other meetings, you would understand. And so I want to kind of rewind back to the beginning, and I'm going to do it through the lens of this particular property, and talk about how we got here. So when I first got on the board 10 years ago, I remember reaching out to Chief Carter and our former manager about drug activity along Cook Street. And two of the reports were this house or a house on the corner. And move on down the road, the people own a house. There's only so much you can do. Police can go by and do enforcement, but they own a house. The house becomes blighted, and there's boards on the outside of it. And it was like that for a while, and I got the question a couple times, what are y'all going to do with that house? Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your view of the world, we don't get in the business of buying houses. I don't take your tax dollars and turn around and go buy private property, even if it's for the sake of protecting something that we believe should stay. I can say that I believe it should stay. In this case, I can tell you that if you'd have called me, I'd have said it looks like it's sagging in the middle, it looks like it's sagging on the top. I don't know, but if someone wants to make it better, that's right. So that's what someone did. And what I'd argue is that I didn't buy it. And I haven't attempted to make it better. I can see where someone from the outside would look at the comprehensive plan and the conversations that we've had about townhomes everywhere else in this town, every other time we've discussed them. Because every other time we discuss them, folks come to the front and we have a conversation about townhomes and they say, hey, look, we're on Lake Glad Road, or we're on Rollsville Road, or we're on Old Zebulon Road, or we're far out from your downtown core. You shouldn't be putting this type of housing type. And so I can give you the long-winded, like, this is how we develop here, this is how we develop there, but we put a plan together, right? It was long process, and we put a plan together, and I can see how that plan literally dictates, it says by right, townhomes in this area. Not by chance, not by if you want to, by right. It's written in the plan. The other piece is we made a lot of moves, we've had a lot of conversations about how does downtown redevelop, right? And how does downtown grow out from where it is today? I would imagine that everything along those railroad tracks, let me try to draw the line here. So south of Chocolates by Whitney, so south of Cook Street, and then back into town develops in a way that none of us likely have would think today. It's not going to be one or two houses, and it's not going to be one big anything. It's going to be a designed plan around what that area can be developed for in conjunction with the town. Because to answer a lot of the questions, have you guys thought about the traffic? Have you thought about this? I remember in the planning board notes, and maybe that was not included and it wasn't meant to be, but a conversation about the stoplight. And right, I can't control the flow of the stoplight, but if I'm worried about traffic on this project, the number one thing I'd want to fix is that stoplight, right? Well, stoplight's being fixed. It's going as fast as it possibly can, and it's doing that because we adopted a plan to get it done. The next thing that I'd be worried about is water and runoff. Well, the water or the stormwater system there today may be part of the problem. However, we noticed that a couple years ago, and that project's in line to fix the stormwater all the way back to Cook Street. So those are the two big infrastructure pieces back to the biggest piece of infrastructure. I haven't heard anyone tonight say that they don't want housing there. I've heard most people say that they're good with commercial there, or they're good with the commercial beside it. If I had my magical wand of like, let's just make it perfect, it sounds like what everyone wants is commercial mixed use. And we should ask RW Realty if we could somehow stack them on right beside the new aesthetic boutique that's coming beside that, and then we could build these houses right on top of it, and you'd have a commercial mixed-use product. And if you were anywhere else and you had all three of those products, that's what you would do. But we're not, right? Because we've preserved two houses, we lost one, and now we've got to figure out what to do with that lot. Everything to the south of it is commercial. Everything to the north of it is residential. I believe that we can say things like, we're going to maintain everything to the north of this as residential, right? I'm not going to pop a house that is directly in between two other homes north of there and do this same project. But this project on a corner, across from commercial, across from an area that, at least in the last 6 months, we've moved 2 different items to talk about how we were doing brownfield agreements, and we're researching the area, and we're doing all of these things that we're discussing, and that we've talked about needing for this project. It's there, right? We're not ever going to find an infill project that comes with an abundance of land. That's why it's an infill project. By definition, it has been filled all the way around it. But what we can do is get exchanges for things that we think we need. The other, and this will be my last piece, but we've put townhomes in and around downtown thus far in the same areas that I see that when you look back towards town, you're going to be able to see downtown and the downtown development. So 4th Street is an example of that. The 3rd Street, across from the 3rd Street redevelopment, right? So there's townhomes there that are on a lot size that is also small, but when you, right, and if you're just looking at 3rd Street screen printing today and you don't understand and you don't know the redevelopment's going to happen there, like this is going to be the outside of it. Now, going further down into Cook Street or working back up, like I've said, into the residential neighborhoods, I can see where there's some rub there or some concern. But it sounds like everyone's okay with commercial in the area. It sounds like everyone's okay with, and what I heard in most cases was 2, like we should do, at least in comments, duplex or triplex. So we're good with multiple people there. The comp plan, the Blueprint Wendell
identified it as here. If we're not gonna build it here, if we're not willing to build townhomes here, then this is, for me, well, I think I've explained it. If we're gonna build it outside of here and plan units develop, and plan developments, because we know we have single-family here, and we're gonna put townhomes as a transition product, if you want to protect the properties behind this in a transition zone, you lay the line right along Wendell Boulevard. Well, mentally for me, the line is south of Cook Street along Wendell Boulevard, down 3rd Street, out 231, back up and around. And that's your loop around downtown where I see it. I think that you could have denser products, which you could have denser products closer, even closer to the core, right? But if you don't start with an expectation of where something can be built, and we don't follow the plan, I don't know, it seems to me like we have a fair amount of agreement on a fair amount of things. We don't want distressed properties. We don't want we don't want traffic problems that come with traditional style developments. There is an agreement that it could be multifamily, and we've obviously laid that out in the plan. What I would, I don't know, I guess, make all those observations and say that everyone always wants it to be the one-night thing, right? Like, it's very easy to walk up to the dais and either be for or against something. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's where it ends, and that's where it can end. Unfortunately, and I explained this to a friend the other day about how these decisions land in our lap. I worked EMS for a long time. The easiest thing for me to relate to is work that I've done. But I used to routinely get dispatched to calls, and I'd get there, and the government was there, and we were responding because you had made a request. And then it's our job to help you manage your crisis that's specific to you, that's different and very important to you, and try to help you get to a better place through a variety of different means. This process is very similar. We get pulled, or we get brought into a process after the ground rules have been laid, and people bring us projects. It's our job to walk through those projects and figure out how they can be better, and that's what we're doing here. The only other point I wanted to make was about planning board. Planning board's role is to advise us on their projects. Our planning board currently, and somewhat historically, has not attempted to make drastic changes to a project. They'll make recommendations to us, but they don't make drastic changes. And it creates their ability to say their thoughts. But they also understand that when the project gets here, we have the ability not to have to just pass it on to someone else. We have the ability to sit and think about it. We have the ability to make the project better. It seems to me that we have a comp plan that's in line. We have a project that's sitting in front of us. We have agreement that commercial or more intense residential should go there based on our plan and the conversations tonight. And so I would just encourage us to all collectively continue to work on that. I'm happy to hear comments on how to improve the project or thoughts on how to improve the project. But I think the false logic that there is, that tonight is some sort of, I don't know, that you have to be for it or against it, and you can't want to improve it while also having concerns about it, right? Like, that's the part that I was, I guess, looking for in the end.
Does the applicant would the applicant like to be heard?
Parker Jones, Cook Street Partners. Appreciate y'all having me up here. I hate to have to follow Jason, but I appreciate Lewis getting up here and taking the brunt of the tough technical questions for me. I just wanted to get up here and I guess maybe talk a little bit about the process that I went through when I found the property, when I saw the property was for sale, up until being in front of you all right now. When I first saw the property down there, I was looking around in downtown Wendell because I think downtown Wendell is an awesome place to be. I think there's tons of opportunity for growth. There's tons of potential downtown, and I love downtown areas. I've always lived in downtown areas. I've always spent time there. And I feel like Wendell is just a place it's got it all, and well, I can see it all coming, right? And everybody wants well, not everybody, but people like the idea of mixed use and having some more retail and having some more restaurants. And, you know, in my mind, there has to be a certain amount of density around in order for all that to happen, in order for investors and developers to come in and put their money in town and grow what it seems like that the long-term plan, the short-term plan, I guess 2030, is it 2030? It seems like that's where Wendell wants to go. So we found the property, I found the property. I'm doing this on my own. I'm not working for Bank of America or fixing to turn this over to some institutional investor. This is gonna be my project to build these townhomes, build them the way that you all would want them to be, and then sell them individually, right? And so I've got some things to address density, but I'll get to that in a minute. So I found the house, and I know I heard very early on there was some concern about a historic house there. And when I went and looked at it on foot, walking around, I had somebody walk up and say something to me about the historic nature of the house. But unfortunately, I mean, I guess the fact of the matter is it's not in the historic district. But that doesn't take away from people's desire to keep a great, you know, over 100-year-old house there. I get that, whether it's in the historic district or not. And it's very unfortunate, but the previous owner didn't do that. An inspector fell through the porch before I bought the house. There was garbage and trash everywhere, piled up in front of the house, behind the house. When I got inside of it, as far as I could go inside of it, there was people that were in and out of it that weren't supposed to be there, that weren't paying rent. I mean, it was not a habitable home. And not only was it not habitable, but it was nowhere close to being rehab ready, if you will. So that's just not economically feasible, not for me, not for anybody. So that's why it's sat where it's sat, boarded up. And if I'm another investor that really wants to come sink some big bucks into downtown Wendell, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at some other stuff right around there, and I'm thinking maybe now's not the time to do it. So I say all that to say I understand the concerns. I feel like, you know, what we did after that was we met with the staff multiple times. We got a lot of feedback, and we came up with something that fit all the rules and requirements of the UDO as laid out, and that's how we arrived where we were. There's a lot of questions I've heard about the size of garages and you know, whether or not the back door of one of the units is too close to the fence, and I appreciate what Lewis said. You know, the market's going to dictate that, right? And so we're not going to go in there and build something that we can't sell and won't be marketable to people. At the end of the day, that's what our goal is. As far as density goes, there is a certain amount of density that's required there in order to be able to build units with the right materials and the right look that you all want in downtown, and be able to sell them and make a profit or make any money at all. So that's, you know, at the end of the day, I can't make any bones about that, right? We can't come in and we ran it we took some feedback from the planning meeting that 3 stories was too high. So we looked at 2 stories. When you move down to 2 stories, you got to do some certain things that become space constrained again there in order to make units that are big enough to make sense right there. You know, you can't build 1,000 square foot units on those, you know, on that parcel. And I don't think that's what the town wants. But that's kind of how we arrived at that 8 unit number. And we carved it back up and we looked at 6 and quite frankly, we couldn't make the numbers work. So that's how we got there. Again, it's my responsibility to myself to make them marketable. So we're going to make them look nice. and we're going to make them something that you guys are proud of having in town, and we're going to make it something that when other developers come into town and they want to sink some money into downtown to put a restaurant in, or put, I mean, this is in line with the comprehensive plan, but I think, you know, it gets more dense. There's the opportunity for more density in towards the very center of town, right? And, you know, it in my mind, it takes creating things like this in order for other people to see the vision that you have. And I understand I'm going out on a limb doing it there where I'm doing it, because there's, well, it would be the first one of its kind right there, and there's some, anyway. The fee in lieu, I heard a few things about that. You know, that's not an attempt for us to buy our way out of having to do something that's good for the city. The fee in lieu is over 30 grand that's going to go to the city, that the city can use to build a park or build sidewalks or do whatever they want, right? So that 30 grand, that's real dollars. So we could go put a grill set by, you know, if we had enough space, according to the rules, you could go put a little grill set, and you could put a swing set up and get your, I guess what's green space, or you could meet that requirement, right? But we're gonna give a big check to the town to go do something real with it that the town wants. So I hope that addresses the fee in lieu. I'm not sure if anybody knew how large of an expense that is, and what kind of a check that would be for the city to go spend on whatever they want. But, yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out. I appreciate it. I understand everybody's passionate about their homes and where they live and their neighborhood. And you know, we want to do something nice there. So I appreciate all y'all having me up here, and I appreciate everybody coming out, spending their time to voice their concerns. And I'd love to answer any questions that any of you all have. Lewis has asked me if he was going to come up here first, and I was hoping y'all would hit him with those technical questions so I could come up, but.
Are there any questions from the board for the applicant?
I just have some comments, but no more questions.
Okay, go ahead.
You go, all right.
Whatever, yeah, go.
Well, I'll make them stand up here. If anybody else has questions, he can go sit down. Go ahead, Braxton.
Did you look, so first question, is time of the essence for you?
I mean, time is always of the essence, but.
It's kind of a rhetorical question, but.
Yeah,
I
right,
gotta ask.
right.
So my next question is, and did you look at any other options from a standpoint of 7 with guest parking or whatever, are you down to, I've got to have 8, or it's a no-go for you?
We looked at several different plans. We looked at 6, 3-story, 6, 2-story. You know, 7 and leaving a little spot there for somebody to come park is not, I don't think that moves the needle enough to, you know, at that point, it starts to become not economically viable when you're reducing the number of units like that. And I'm not sure that adds to the overall project in a material way, but that's, I guess, a matter of
Can I
opinion.
ask staff to put up the picture one more time for the view, the elevation view? So I walked Cook Street today, and I've walked it many times going to Chocolate by Whitney's, and again, I want to ask at some point, I'd like to hear, are there citizens for this at the appropriate point? But my question, sort of, and I wish I had this picture up here, but this is Cook Street tonight, an hour, well, 30 minutes before the meeting. There were 2 cars parked within the whole run of it to get to the next intersection. And I guess my thought to that is, if you guys can close your eyes and walk down Cook Street, across from this property, 40 feet away, is socioeconomically, and I hope I don't get myself in trouble here, but socioeconomically deferred maintenance properties that do not look favorable if I were in a historic district, or if I were doing much of anything, quite honestly. I'll stop there, so I'm in this chair, but my point to this is, I would argue this is a vast improvement in quality of construction, safety of home, quality of living, standard of living to individuals versus what I see as other options that are literally 40 feet away. To the Mayor Pro Tem's point, and I think he made a very valid point here, if we address the stoplight, which is going to be addressed, if we address the stormwater, which we're going to address, and I understand we're not trying to put a townhome and 3, 4, 5 houses down on Cook Street, but I feel like this is a vast improvement versus the eyesore that was there 6 months ago.
I would agree.
Thank you.
I didn't want to go down the path of the socioeconomically depressed, deferred maintenance units across the street, but that matters. And if someone sees this going in across the street from that, it gives them the confidence that, okay, maybe it is investable here, and maybe this is just a matter of time before that piece gets improved. But I have to, I mean, that's,
Thank you. I yield.
If you got questions, you can.
No, it's not a question.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just talk here for a second. So I had actually kind of had the pleasure of kind of going to that planning board meeting because I'd been contacted by a few people, and it was kind of good to sit and hear their discussion that night. A lot of the same concerns were brought up. I know a lot of the same citizens that were here tonight were here that night, so I appreciate them coming out twice. And a lot of the same concerns were brought up regarding traffic and transportation, and I mean, they were kind of getting in the weeds, so it was good to hear. To me, I've always felt like the planning board approves a lot of things that come through. So when they didn't approve this, I was surprised, but I also kind of felt like that was a significant comment from their endpoint. And yeah, Commissioner Jordan said they don't change things, true, but they usually approve things too. So the fact that they didn't stood out to me. We've heard all talk about the traffic and trash cans and all kind of little minute details. I think the big thing is I think we're all maybe I'm a little more common sense. Unlike I know we're not quite have the traffic data, but my neighborhood, there's 2-car garages, nice long driveways. People still park in the street, so people are going to park on Cook Street. I think that's a given. I think we have a property here that is just a small piece of land that I think, infill development would be fantastic here. I think townhomes would be fantastic here. I understand we have to make our project work financially. But I think what we've heard from the 5 write-ins and the 5 or 6 citizens that have come up and spoke is that, I don't think this is the right thing. And as a commissioner, I think that's kind of the biggest factor, in my opinion, is that if someone came up here and they had presented it and no one had come up here and spoke against it, or they had all come and spoke for it, fantastic. Maybe I don't like it, but maybe everybody else does. But if I've got people who have come here and speaking against it and not liking it, yeah, there's probably a middle ground. There's probably a compromise. Maybe it's a smaller group of townhomes, maybe it's different townhomes, but to me, I think it's still trying to make a very tight piece of land, make a project that doesn't seem to fit, make it fit, and make it work, when I don't think it does. And I think this is just kind of where, as a commission, we have just got to be able to kind of say, hey, this isn't right, bring back maybe a little bit better, bring back better what the citizens want. I think it's okay to do that, and it's not sometimes our job to sit up here. If there's tweaks we can make, I don't think there's little tweaks we can make on this one. I think this is try again. I think it's okay because I think we have a lot of stuff going on in this town. I think it's okay to be looking forward to the next project or shift our focus to something else versus something here that the neighbors don't want, and that I don't think in 10, 15, 20 years is anything that we're all going to be just really, it's not going to bring anything really different to our town. So I think I'd rather say, hey, bring back something that's a little better that people like, that maybe fits a little better, that's not a round peg in a square hole, and try that again. So that's my opinion.
Okay.
Is that fix it and bring it back? Is that?
I mean, if they have a eraser and a wand that they can fix it here, that's fine. But to me, I don't know. I mean, fix it and bring it back, that's fine. But I don't know what that's going to.
So the point I was trying to get to earlier was that this project, like this site, is gonna develop.
True.
Right, and it's gonna develop with either commercial or residential.
Okay.
It could, by right, be anything from single-family residential to a townhouse, to multiple townhouses. You have someone who's standing in front of us that said I think it's very easy to say, this isn't it. Planning board made no suggestions because that's the way the planning board is set up, right? They don't change the process. I had a conversation earlier, but didn't receive a single email on this. Checked my email today, talked to Dr. Lutz. He got some emails. I didn't get any emails. Checked my phone before I got here. I didn't get any phone calls. So today, I read I had previously read planning board stuff, but we get here, and this is where conversation can be had, and we can talk about changes. And when I said something about moving forward, I can see the faces in the audience. Everybody tenses up like, no, can't do that. Like, it's got to be no right now. And that doesn't work either. Like the property's not leaving, the development's not leaving, the pressure for development's not leaving. So I mean, I'm having a hard time because I'm trying to find the thing that they want. I haven't heard it. I haven't heard I've heard, have you thought about this and have you thought about that? And I tried to lay out what I've thought about and what plans we've laid out and what plans we've thought about. But specific to this, no. It seems like a process to just continuously not actually work through the process. And so staff ends up doing the project 3 times instead of working through the process 1 time. We notice things and planning board hears things multiple times instead of us working through the process once. And it's in my mind because, I don't know, like we just get here and then like everybody wants it to be over with. Right? We can do it again with like this is, there's some projects that are just going to develop. One, right, like Rollsville Road, that one went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and then voted down. And guess what? Like as soon as it got done, they sold it. And now it's coming back again, right? I would have loved, and I think that the people out there who were opposed to the development then would have loved for that project now to have worked out a little bit differently because the projects change every time, right? So like now that project has grown bigger. I don't think that just saying no now and we'll wait and see what blind luck brings us in the future is a good plan either, especially when we've laid out all these other plans. My piece is just like, let's figure it out. And I haven't heard I've heard the concern, but I haven't heard this is what I want to see there. I haven't heard here's what we should do differently. The aesthetic, I heard a lot of conversations about the aesthetics, right? I can't build a historic house. And further than that, the North Carolina General Assembly and state law does not allow us to have the aesthetic design standards. So like I can't tell you what it can look like outside of a conditional district. So it's not a thing that we can do. So now we got to figure out what we can do. This seems like a pretty high-end product. It seems like it's right where we asked for it to show up on a plan. And to the conversation about the traffic, like make the numbers matter or say that they don't, there was 75 units that were added in the last calendar year, 2 blocks from my house, inside of an existing neighborhood that's been there since the 80s. No notable change in traffic. If I leave to go there in the morning, if I leave and go through there in the morning, about half the cars are there because about half the people leave and about half of them don't. So like maybe I don't buy Lewis's 4 number, but I'll buy 8. And 8 cars is not the panacea for what is going to cause the problem on Wendell Falls Parkway. It's not, right? Like, so I get it. But I mean, it follows the plan. I can't. I don't know. I mean,
we have some other emails that Commissioner Lutz reminded me that we received that I need to have the clerk read in to the record.
Are we also, Madam Mayor, are we also able to hear, are there any proponents, citizens that are here? Are there other people that are going to speak?
The public hearing, anyone that would like to speak can speak. But let's listen to these first. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
from Kelly and Jessica Barnes at 417 Lemon Pepper Place. We chose Wendell proper over Wendell Falls specifically for the small town Big Charm advertised. These 8 proposed townhomes will deeply detract from the charming small town environment in which we want to raise our children. Do not approve this proposal. Next one is from Kelly Marshburn at 450 Chaplin Street. To whom it concerns, please vote no to any proposed rezoning efforts for this lot located on Wendell Parkway. This is not an appropriate location for townhouse units as it borders the historic district and is surrounded by single-family homes. Wendell is already getting so congested by traffic. What used to be a 2-minute drive from my house on Chaplin to the water plant now takes 10 minutes or more at certain times of day. Wendell Boulevard is almost impossible to turn on to many times of day. Stop developing multi-unit homes in Wendell. Next one is Chelsea Salinas, Chelsea Jacob at 1048 Holly Point Drive. As a resident of Wendell, I do not support the continuous development of townhomes in downtown Wendell, specifically at 200 Wendell Falls Parkway. Downtown is not spacious enough to accommodate for the type of development, and also the development of new townhomes in the area takes away the small town charm appeal that Wendell thrives on. Next one is from Caitlin. I understand that growth is happening and has been happening, however, this is ridiculous. You already took a beautiful piece of land and put in townhouses right off of Church Street, causing horrible traffic, and they aren't even filled. Now you want to take this tiny lot and add 8 more. This town cannot handle any more housing or traffic. The schools cannot handle any more children. Eastwick High School is 300 plus kids over capacity, but let's add more. The people of Wendell are fed up. Stop being money hungry and start thinking about your current residents. I vote absolutely not for this. Leave the land alone. Last one is from Brandon Strickland at 4428 Rollsville Road. Hello, I am writing as I am unable to attend the hearing on January 27th. This project was already prudently rejected by the planning board. We do not want more highly density homes on a small road with high traffic like this. This is near a busy intersection and also close to our community park. This lot is best suited for a duplex or single-family property, not more townhomes. We have so many townhomes in Wendell, and these are only to benefit the developers to maximize their profits. I respectfully request the town deny this request and do what's right for the community. Please be our voice and support the will of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, did you have something you wanted to say, Commissioner Joyner? I have a question for the, can you address one of the people who spoke said something about permeable soil and stormwater, and can you address how that is managed? And
So the project is
case.
required to have 8,000 square feet of open space. It's not permeable soils, it is open space that is either active recreation or passive. So it could be grass, could be, playground, athletic field type things. It's a small infill project, so they have requested a fee in lieu. So they will provide 1,500 square feet is what the site plan shows in open space, where like the mail kiosk will be, and bike rack, things like that. But it is not related, the open space is not related to permeable soils in this case.
do you anticipate there being a water runoff problem
So
because of
the
the lack of open space here?
So the site, like pretty much all the other sites around this, all flows into the town stormwater system in Cook, Wendell Falls Parkway, and other underground systems. The LAP project, as I mentioned, will install stormwater improvements from Wendell Boulevard down to Cook Street, where there are drainage built into the street network. The site is not legally required by the state, the town, or the feds to do any stormwater improvements, as it does not meet any thresholds based on its size, and it doesn't meet any thresholds for the erosion control. They will have to do erosion control during construction and make sure that soil's not going into the public right-of-way or DOT right-of-way during construction. And then the site, the water that does run will go into the current network that's already been built or will be built.
The LAP project you referred to, that is the traffic light. And in the preparations for that, we discovered we were having some issues and we're making some changes in addition. That's part of that project.
Correct,
will
yeah.
serve this
So
area as well.
when the town was developing plans with our consultant to signalize that intersection with NCDOT, there was realization that the storm drains up by the school at the intersection just flow underground and aren't connected to other storm drainage systems. So as a responsibility through NCDOT, we cannot make improvements to their road that don't involve improving the stormwater infrastructure as well. So that's an added cost that the town is splitting with the state in the LAP program.
That doesn't have anything to do with I think one gentleman mentioned some sewer backup on Cook.
I have no information on any sewer backups
Yeah, so
through the city
maybe
of Raleigh.
Whoever that was needs to contact y'all and let y'all figure out with the city of Raleigh.
Sure, if there's-
what's going on with that, if we're having an issue with
Yeah,
that.
if residents have concern about a sewer backup, certainly email us and we can get the city of Raleigh out to look at the situation.
And then there's also been some talk about, is this for profit? Do we just need homes, or what that situation was? And I'm not asking a question about this. This is just a comment from me. Everything is for profit, y'all. People don't build houses, and they don't build restaurants, and they don't build commercial ventures, and they don't do these things without having this is what they do for a living. So I think it's unfair to be critical of the fact that people, and calling people greedy. I've gotten some phone calls about that, and I think that's unfair. And we do need more homes here because there's a lot of people moving in all the time. So whether they're here or wherever, we do need places for people to live. Things sell and get snapped up very quickly here. So, all right, Paul, give me your name and address. You say, see your.
I don't need to tell you my name, you just call me.
I know,
I'm Paul
but
White, I live on Lions Club Road. No, I can't tell you the number.
I know.
We went through that one time before, but it is Lions Club
remember.
Road. I'll make a couple of comments on things
Okay.
I've heard and things we said we wanted. I have interest because I manage and own with others the block across from this, the whole block. And I relate this because we originally purchased that lot thing because we see downtown not going north and south, it'll be a big U. And I see that whole block, it's commercial now, amazingly. But one day, it'll be clear, and I may be dead when it happens, but it'll be zero lot zoning, and it will be downtown. I would prefer this corner to have been commercial. However, the house that was there was a dump. It was a drinking and a drug problem, and it was very detrimental, in my opinion. And to have somebody that had the nerve to come and buy it, I should have done it, but I didn't. But I'm glad that somebody bought it and tore it down. But once you tore it down and you got the lot, you got to do something with it. And you're going to see a mixture. You have some nice houses on, this was Buffalo Street. And our idea when we bought our property that one day things will come together. So now you got Wendell Boulevard, you've got no longer Buffalo Street, it's Wendell Falls Parkway. It's been majorly improved. The other side of the street has two houses that have been turned into commercial, which I was glad to see because that fits with what we want to do in the future. Again, I'd rather see this corner be commercial, but what's going there, based on what was there to the detriment of anybody else who lived on that street, is wonderful. And at some point, we need to welcome some of these people that come in here and try to improve a situation that was a dump. And it was, the police had a problem with it. You had alcohol, you had drugs, and there was no such thing as rebuilding that house. It was a dump. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyhow, okay, so to finish my thought, I think it's, doesn't get us anywhere to begrudge people. I certainly don't expect everyone that comes to Wendell and wants to open any kind of, whether it's residential, commercial, or whatever, that I don't expect them to be a charitable institution. And I think that we all do what we do in our lives to earn money to conduct our lives. And I think that's only fair. So I certainly don't begrudge that. And I think we also all understand that it takes a certain amount, there's costs involved, and it takes a certain amount for a project to be profitable. And we certainly want to make a profit. All right, anything else from the board? Yes.
Yeah, I'll chime in too. And really, I mean, I think I want to just talk a little bit about why I hear all the comments that have been made, and I do appreciate many of the concerns that have been expressed. But I think I've thought a lot about this up until tonight. I like this project, and I guess it's just kind of where I'm at, and I figured I'd at least take a moment to try to explain my logic a little bit, and I don't ask anybody to change their mind, just like the mayor and I will have differences of opinion from time to time, but I do think it's fair and the least any of us can do to at least explain our logic, and happy to talk about it more at another time. But I think that a true infill redevelopment project like this one is something that we don't get a lot. I mean, you know, our town's growing, everybody, y'all live here, you see it. We see a lot of projects that are come before us, and very, very few of them are what I would truly define as infill redevelopment. And I've supported plenty of projects that are large subdivisions built by big international investment-owned bank builders and developers, and they certainly have a place in my mind in ensuring that we have homes for the people who want to live here, and homes for people, because anybody that's bought a house recently knows that there are, if supply and demand has any merit to it, there are far too few because they're far too expensive. Anyway, the subdivisions that we've approved a mile away from our downtown business core commercial district, on 2-lane country roads, all toward a eye of a future development pattern that connects those things, are really long-term, and I've supported many of them. And the type of development that we actually need, or that I believe in, as a cornerstone to ensuring that we have I've said walkable, mixed use 100 times since I've been on this board. You're not going to build a walkable mixed use development anytime soon on Old Zebulon Road, or on Lake Glad Road, or on any of the other roads where we've approved some developments. You can approve and build walkable, dense walkable, mixed use development in our downtown. And it's not just about this one corner lot, it's about our downtown. And so we talk about all the time the fact that we are one of the towns in Wake County that actually does have a historic downtown business district. It's something this board has really prioritized investing in, sometimes at the expense of other commercial areas in town that maybe would like to have the benefits and investments that are available to our downtown business owners. But I think we've prioritized that as a board because we think it's important to have an identity as a town and a downtown focus area that people know what it means when you say, I'm going downtown Wendell, or I'm going to Wendell. There are towns in our county and towns in the state that I could tell you that I'm going to them, and I won't say their names, but it doesn't really tell you a whole lot. That means I'm going to some whole region of Wake County or some whole region of a neighboring county. But when you come to Wendell, you're going downtown. It's a part of our identity as a community. And so I want to continue making investments in our downtown. I want to continue making sure that it grows and thrives. You've heard tonight some about the potential really, I think, in the short term, opportunities for commercial expansion, the expansion of our downtown commercial business district, and homes that people can live in near that district and walk to the businesses that are there are a key to making that a reality. So that's something that I've always wanted. I think that's something that projects like this bring to the table. I think when you are working on a project at a lot that's in a developed area as opposed to a 40-acre farm somewhere a mile or two down the road out of town that you maybe pass once a week if you're lucky, your perspective on it's different, because I might have seen that 40-acre farm as I drove by at 45 miles an hour, but for many of them, I've not spent day after day, week after week, my whole life walking by them, spending time on the property, really feeling like I'm aware of it and know the property. And infill developments like this one in town that already have development around them, I think sometimes it's harder to conceptualize, or we think that we really understand the details of the property in a way that we just don't think about the level of detail about where the trash can's going to go. At least I've never heard of where the trash can's going to go comment in a board meeting about a development that's out on an unbuilt piece of land. I like doing more of the building on disturbed pieces of property like this one as opposed to building on untouched pieces of farmland nearby. So I want to support things like this when they come to us. The last thing, and I think this is maybe the cornerstone for me, first, this is a transitional product between our downtown business core, which I've talked about at length, retail and commercial on the adjacent properties and across the street, a manufacturing and industrial site a half a block away, and a residential neighborhood behind it that, you know, In my mind, if you're going to build something between manufacturing, commercial, and residential, it's probably dense townhomes. So in my mind, the location makes a lot of sense. And the last thing I'll say is that if there is a level of density that we have approved anywhere in this town, and this is just a fundamental belief that I have, so take it or leave it. If there's a level of density that we've approved anywhere in our town, we ought to be willing to approve it in our downtown. And I do not believe that this is fully unprecedented or unreplicated somewhere in our community. And I think if we're willing to allow things like this to have been built in other parts of town, miles away from our downtown that you can't walk to it, we ought to be willing to build them downtown. So I am in support of the proposal. I really sincerely do appreciate the folks that are here, and I do hear what you're saying. We have different opinions, and so I respect you, but I'd be happy to talk about it some more another time. And Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion when you're ready for it.
Hang on to.
Sure.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? And
Can I ask you a question?
you can come up to the podium. Come up to the podium, sir,
How many of you have?
and give me your name and address.
My
And you-
name is Dale Ruby. I live on Cook Street.
Okay.
I'd like to ask you, how many of you have seen this property?
I have.
You haven't?
Yes, sir.
It's just a couple of blocks on your way out of here. Look at it. If you think you're going to get something like that right there on that property, you are sadly mistaken. Just drive by and look at the property. It's 1/3 of an acre of property. And you tell me you're going to get something like that on that property.
All right, anyone else? Anything else from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Did you want to do it?
Sure. Mayor, I move that we approve the rezoning request of approximately 0.358 of an acre from residential 3 to downtown mixed-use conditional district to create railside townhomes.
All right, we have a motion to approve the rezoning request. Is there any discussion on the motion?
And that is with all of the conditions.
With all, yes,
Absolutely, with the conditions.
the conditions offered, yes. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Okay, 3-2. All right, thank y'all. We'll move into our administrative items. Item 6A is a decision to approve rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate a contract for the request for qualification 2025-06 for design services for the Greenmount Cemetery Master Plan with W.C. Fry LLC. Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and board members. So we are asking you to approve the rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign a contract in response to the RFP 2025-06 for design services for the Greenmount Cemetery Master Plan. Staff issued the RFP for professional design services to create the cemetery master plan and requested responses by December 13th. The RFP document issued for responses attached. The purpose of the Greenmount Cemetery Plan is to provide guidance for the preservation, future development, and maintenance of the almost 6-acre cemetery established in 1907. Cemetery Plan Project does represent the implementation of Strategic Plan Initiative in Goal 3 to evaluate the condition of the town cemetery and establish a cemetery improvement plan to guide future improvements and maintenance of the property. The town did receive 2 responses to the request. Staff reviewed the submissions and ranked the responses based on the submittal. Staff from Planning, Public Works, and Administration participated in the selection process. Following the scoring process, staff did recommend the top firm and rank the submissions in following order. 1 was W.C. Fry LLC. Number 2 was Homestead Companies. In fiscal 25 budget, and the planning budget does provide funding of the amount of $25,000 for the design of the cemetery master plan. And design, once a contract is signed, would most likely extend in through fiscal year 26. Staff does recommend that the bid for work be awarded to W.C. Fry LLC as the submission had the highest score and lowest bid and complete the requested scope of services in the document. Upon approval, staff will negotiate an agreement with the company and prepare for the town manager's signature. I can field any questions you have on the item.
Okay, any questions, comments?
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the rankings and authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign the contract for the RFP.
Right. We have a motion to approve the rankings and authorize the town manager to sign the contract. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Item 6B is Brownfield Task Order 15 for West 4th Street Block Continued Site Assessments. Mr. Garner.
The agenda item is not currently on the PowerPoint. Sorry, Greg's working. I can pull up my phone.
I have it right here if you wanted the paper.
I can read from my phone.
I was
if that's
hoping you had
okay.
the whole thing memorized personally. Is that, sorry.
You may have gone past it, Greg. Okay. Task Order 15 is the most recent task order of Geosyntec's Master Service Agreement for the administration of the town's EPA Brownfield Assessment Grant. This task order proposes the following work: a site eligibility determination, which allows us to expend additional funds and resources on the site, as well as a Phase 2 environmental site assessment, a lead-based paint survey, asbestos-containing material survey, and a site-specific quality assurance project plan, or QAP, as you've heard me say a few times now. The proposed work is to be done on what we refer to as the West 4th Street block, which was one of the priority areas in the Brownfield grant application. As you may have seen in your packet, the West 4th Street block is bounded by Wendell Falls Parkway on the west, the railroad tracks that have been discussed at length this evening to the south, Cook Street to the north, and Magnolia Street to the east. Notably, all of the proposed environmental site assessment work will be done only on the commercial buildings and the light industrial buildings, not impacting any of the residential buildings on the property. Mark gave me his copy, thank you. Task Order 15 is sort of a continuation of the effort to perform environmental site assessments in order to redevelop what we see as sort of one of the new phases of downtown in conjunction with the property owner who is here. Task Order 15 is budgeted currently with a not-to-exceed amount of $19,354. This task order, as well as all the ones before it, is fully funded by the Brownfield grant that we received in 2022. I'm here to answer any questions if you have them.
All right. Any questions from the board?
Mayor, I move we approve Task Order 15 of the town's master service agreement with Geosyntec and authorize the town manager to sign the agreement.
We have a motion to approve Task Order 15 of the town's master service agreement with Geosyntec and authorize the town manager to sign their agreement. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? All right, and item 6C, we removed. Yes, let's do our, we'll move into section 7, other business, update on board committees by town board members. Let's see, Campo, Commissioner Eatman.
Quick update, the last Campo meeting included lots of things, but one Wendell relevant note was an amendment to the statewide transportation improvement plan or program, I never remember what the P stands for, that included EV chargers at our Wake Tech campus.
Central Pines Regional Council, Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was a last-minute virtual only based on weather. Just met last week. There was a pretty lengthy legislative update. Obviously, we have the benefit of having boots on the ground and ears, all things legislature here. But pretty informative. Obviously, elections changed the cast of characters, and so there was an update there. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to our commissioners' comments. Commissioner Joyner.
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Lutz,
No comments tonight, Mayor.
Commissioner Eatman.
Nothing else tonight.
I'll be quick, guys. It is extremely difficult for me to vote against citizen requests for what I believe to be the good of Wendell, and I know it is for all the board. I don't want to speak for you, but it's tough. So we hear what you're saying, and if you're watching on Facebook, we hear this. What we have to weigh is when I ride downtown and I see 3 or 4 or 5 businesses shut down, and I see we lose 2 or 3 businesses in the last 3 months. I don't want to mention them, but we have. Our concern fundamentally is for all of Wendell, and what that means is we must have a strong downtown business corridor, and that requires foot traffic. I won't get on my soapbox, I know Dean's could too, but we need it, and what we're doing is we are, to the best of our ability, trying to vote for the best interest of all of Wendell, because that's the job, that's the oath. Thank you.
Commissioner Deloach?
I'm gonna go with nothing tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, real quickly, I just wanted one more time to congratulate Reverend James Lee for being selected as the 2024 Wendell Mayor's Award winner. The nomination letter that I received was so nice. It was just lovely. I don't know how to describe it any better than that. He certainly has lived a life of service in Wendell, born here, lived here his whole life. Everything wonderful he's ever done has been in here. It has been here for our benefit, and we need more people like him. It was my honor to recognize him. All right, do we have a motion to go into closed session? Yeah,
Can I make an observation?
absolutely, go ahead.
Just to kind of preempt what a really astute reader of the UDO might point out to you. There's a relic in our UDO that says on a planning board recommendation of denial, a 4/5 vote is required to pass an ordinance. And I have opined before that I don't think that is of any legal effect anymore, especially in light of 160D. So in my view, it only takes a majority despite the recommendation of the planning board. But I just want to point that out in case somebody says to you, oh, but your UDO says so-and-so. So you'd be aware of that. I really think we need to clean that piece of the UDO up.
We did clean that
I
up.
thought we did too, but I'm reading it right here in
On the website, maybe.
We voted on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 15.19B3, it still seems to be hanging in there. Just FYI.
Note, we need to get it cleaned up. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I move the board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A5 to establish or instruct the public body staff in negotiating the concerns taken on behalf of the public body.
We have a motion to go in closed session. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's go. John. Halftime score. Right now. No.
I've already, I finished. Actually, the good thing was tomorrow night, because Wednesday's not the game tonight, and I was like, I forgot there was tomorrow night. Especially that game.